The link between respiratory diseases and the environment, experts say we can actually not overemphasize it while reiterating the importance of prevention. Now, this should actually start for some before birth. Now, they're also quick to highlight indoor to outdoor air pollution as sources contributing to most respiratory conditions. Now, how do we ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages? Now, the Forum of International Respiratory Societies said that alleviating the burden of respiratory disease should be a leading strategy of the Sustainable Development Goals, and also a requirement for nations to achieve in whatever way they are trying to do that. Now, is the burden a light one to carry? The information we hope you will blow your mind right across your way. Now, with so many issues competing for public health priorities, when and how do we check such respiratory diseases? Well, at least we expect that they will receive the attention that it really deserves. Welcome to Nigeria Today. My name is Blessing Abu. Here with me in the studio to further speak to the issue, we'd like to welcome at this point Dr. Kingsley Osage. He is a consultant physician and pulmonologist with the National Hospital here in Abuja. Welcome, Dr. Osage.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Of course, that's got to do with pulmonary.
Yes.
Ijoma Linda Wakakwa is a senior registrar, respiratory medicine with National Hospital as well. Welcome, Wakakwa.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, we were told that the atmosphere that we breathe in is more than just air, and it's a combination of so many things that could actually target your respiratory system. Tell us about it, Joma.
Well, the atmosphere is basically made up of a number of gases, and as organisms, living beings, we depend on oxygen for our survival. But in the atmosphere, there are also a number of what we call organic gases that normally occur, such as carbon dioxide that we breathe out and nitrogen, etc. Now, in the developing world, we have had changes in the content of the gases that constitute the atmosphere, especially in areas where we have factories, increase in number of cars on the road, which the exhaust fumes that contain carbon monoxide and other substances. So essentially, with development of the human race, also we've contributed gases that are not the normal constituents of the atmosphere, and this on its own have brought with it diseases that have affected our airways, because we are not made to survive with these noxious gases.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Osage, you may wish to at least take up all that and further, but she has raised a point. The introduction of so many things into the system, from urbanization, aspect of globalization, and some other things that development has brought, definitely is on the increase, and so is the population as well. But this also is a concern for health practitioners like us, and the cause of morbidity, mortality, especially. How do we bring all of this together to what is happening to our respiratory system?
Thank you very much. I don't know your faith, but in the Bible, when after God finished the creation, he said, "Oh, and looked at it, everything was good, and everything was really good." But man was asked to, go and have dominion, and so we've been at it, trying to change the environment, to suit us. So at the end of the day, we have, and the air, the atmosphere that was pure. Yes, of course, on the basic things like oxygen, nitrogen, and all that before. Now we take things into it. But of course, there are things that also occur naturally. We heard about volcanoes, earthquakes, and all, polluting the environment. But our activities contribute more to it. And of course, you've seen down here in Nigeria, if you look at the Niger Delta, you see the gas flaring is going on. You see the activities of our boys, doing the refineries anyhow. And of course, even those that are caught, you know what happened? They burn the oil. Everything is the environment, the atmosphere that suffers it. Okay, and then of course we must have industrialization. You've seen industries springing up here and there, and then they bring in exhaust to also pollute the environment. Our cement, in fact, we also pollute the environment. So, and that is impacting. If you look at China now, China, the atmosphere is a big challenge, and you see a lot of respiratory disease coming up, and this affects, the system from the upper airway to down to the lower airway. You see people coming down with conjunctivitis, things like chronic rhinosinusitis, sore throat, tonsillitis, pharyngitis, laryngitis, up to
all the itis
to bronchitis. Then of course, let me mention asthma, COPD, the chronic obstructive airway disease. So these are the things, and of course, yes, those that are genetically predisposed, yes, will present more with the symptoms, but even those that probably wouldn't have had their symptom worse, but when they are exposed to an environment that is polluted with ourselves. Of course, I've been talking about outdoor things. Indoor pollution.
Exactly, because just those outside.
Now you see people still use kerosene stove. They use firewood to cook
indoors.
Indoors, and then and of course, maybe they're living in a room, one room, and one corner they put kerosene stove there, and then it's burning away.
Generator.
Then of course, generator. Better part, my neighbor is everywhere, and everybody is. Apart from the atmosphere that has been polluted, the noise that is coming there, it also pollutes the air. And of course, we are also using insecticides. Of course, incense, and if you look at up north, here we see there's hardly any typical northerners home that you will not see incense. That at least they try to. They have for different reasons. Some for just to improve the fragrance. Some. They said, okay, I even asked
all those also
they are all constituting
okay, fine. Let's take a look at the type of respiratory burdens that patients have had to come to the hospitals for, or those at least over the years that you've seen, especially for our own clients. I know you cited the example of China.
Yeah.
Those could be different from what we have here, but of course, maybe let's start from you. What are those types of respiratory burden present themselves before you clinicians?
Well, ironically, most times when we speak about respiratory diseases in the environment, we tend to take it lightly. Most people feel, okay, it's just a cough or a cold that will pass by, something that is transient, that will go away with time. But as you've mentioned, we have respiratory disease, or the specialty is actually a big specialty outside this country. And when I say outside this country, I'm talking of developed clients. So not to talk of our society where they are still underdeveloped areas and population. We're going to see a variety of illnesses ranging from infectious to chronic conditions. Now, recently, ironically, with the westernization of our society, illnesses such as cancer has been on the rise, because previously, prior to now, most conditions or diseases, if you whichever terminology excuse me, that suits you, prior to now, most times we come across infectious diseases, most commonly tuberculosis, which is actually a disease of low socioeconomic standards. But recently, ironically, more advanced and complex illnesses such as lung cancer has been on the rise. Then of course we have our normal other infectious illnesses such as what we call pneumonia. We also come into contact with this. Then on the other hand, we have conditions such as asthma or bronchitis that is quite common, which is more like a localized allergic condition of the respiratory system. These are some of the illnesses we come into contact with every day.
Such allergies, like for those, okay, let's use this case of the asthma that you just called now. For some who believe it's hereditary?
Yes, there is a genetic component attached to it, yes. For example, if you have a first-degree relative, when I say first-degree, I mean maybe mother, father, or siblings that have asthma, you are more likely to inherit this disease condition. But I would just like to point out that when we talk about allergic conditions limited to respiratory system, it's not limited only to asthma. For example, I have been opportuned to practice up north, for example, in Jos, which is actually a mining city. Yes, in as much as most individuals are determined to look for their daily bread as a source of livelihood, I have come across a number of patients who are actually allergic in their line of work. We have a group of diseases we call pneumoconiosis, which are just essentially illnesses that are gotten, for example, during the line of work. And when I say line of work, it varies from as we've mentioned earlier, those that deal with petrochemicals, for example, to miners, to even farmers, individuals that keep birds, those that have to go out into the wild. There are various substances to which one might be allergic to.
So most occupational hazard to
yes, it is a major occupational hazard, and most individuals, no one will want to attribute it to their source of livelihood, because most people will point out, so if I give up this job, where will I get my daily bread? So they tend to endure until you can endure no more. And we've also mentioned the use of natural occurring substances as a source of fuel. For example, even the lady that roasts corn by the roadside, the fry akara and all that, all these are source of
plantain.
Yes, roast plantain. All these are source of the smoke is a very unhealthy substance to be exposed to, and we've seen individuals come down with illnesses that are attributed to this. It might not occur early in life or immediately, but it's a long-term effect. After some years, one will start manifesting such diseases. Okay,
Dr. Sage, let's before we go, because we'll go on a break in a short while. We actually spoke with some Nigerians earlier as residents of the city on what they know about respiratory diseases, and at least about for you to what knowledge they have. So what more we need to do differently, especially when it concerns occupational hazard, like you have pointed out, and what people need to do to prevent themselves, because some people have such conditions and we breathe into one another in that enclosure or workplace. What we need to do differently. But quickly, for children, exposure to this, we've already talked about the issue of mobility and high mortality in that area. How do we contextualize that of the children?
Yeah, for children, we would really need to be on the lookout for, because children, again, particularly under 5, they are not able to complain. They tell you that they are ill and all that. And particularly when they are from the environment that predisposing them more to this is like living in an overcrowded environment and all that. And of course, if again there's another child that is coughing around, I expect the parents to be on the lookout. If that child that used to play around, you know, suddenly it's no longer very active active as it used to be, they used to suspect that it might be that he has contacted something. And of course, again, you give food, he's refusing food, and then by the time you touch the child is having a fever, and then it's having fast breathing and all that. So we suspect that there could be some respiratory condition going on there. And then, of course, we even the respiratory alongside the government have also thought about what we can do to reduce this burden. And
we'll talk about that when we return from this break. I just wanted you to touch on that because so it won't just be an adult thing we're talking about here. Okay, let's get to the street and bring you this Vox Pop.
For those asthmatic patients, most Nigerians, the word is killing us most is, I'm a strong man, disease does not kill African man. We should learn to remove that mentality from our head and be cautious of what is happening to us. So for those having that kind of situation, for this kind of season, I would like the government to make adverts for them that, see, this is what's going on, this is what's going on, this is the solution, this is the solution. Make a good safe center for them that they can take care of themselves very well, and allow them to know the uses and the period they are that is not conducive for them.
Actually, you see, this particular season is not good for people that have asthma because the dust is much. So what we advise that you should be conscious of the way you go out, the way you go inside the crowd, because as the crowd is moving, you know that there's a lot of dust. So for you to going out, you have to find something that will protect you to inhale the dust.
If you are an asthmatic patient, you've not been visiting doctor, this is the time you need to do that, because self-treatment is not recommended at this time. You need to get to your doctor and then do what your doctor recommends for you to do. So when you do that, you'll be on the safe side.
Okay, I would advise those with that have asthma to always stay indoors if they don't have any important thing to do outside. And then if they must go out, that they should have this face mask. I think it's very important for this season because the dust is out now and everywhere. I would also advise them to go about with their inhalers and have their medications in their pockets.
Well, doctor, yes, with asthma, because I was going to ask if the whole city is now infected with people having asthma.
But it shows that we are also winning too, because we've been, for the past few months, we've been, trying to promote, this asthma awareness and telling the public what to look out for and what to do. So, well, when you say that, I realize,
okay, yes, fine. Let's take a look.
People are talking about asthma now, so it's a good thing.
All right, the weather condition, of course, is changing. Again, gradually we're moving into the dry season, and of course, we're expecting that so many things will be in the air more now. So, for those that we're trying to break down the types that they have. I know we said we have something about upper respiratory and even the lower respiratory. Now, trying to at least put them in their different boxes. It's your area. How do we begin to help, whether you're asthmatic or you're not, generally for people to know when the body system starts changing in whatever direction? Doctor?
Well, ironically, a common preventive measure, basic preventive measure, is also the urbanization. How do I mean? When an area is developed, we talk of concrete, and if not concrete, we have flower beds, for example. I think that basically eliminates the problem of dust. So actually going green is something we should encourage ourselves to do, keeping our environment as clean as possible and free from dust. Now, also coming to the issue of cleanliness, ironically, what we call a trigger, something that can bring up is an attack, yes, an asthmatic attack, yes, that's basically layman's language. Something that can bring it up, that has been discovered to bring up an attack of asthma is basically what we call even the excrement of roaches or cockroaches or rats. So being clean, I think, is an important basic aspect of preventing an attack of asthma. Secondly, since once an individual is educated about the disease, the asthma, for example, asthma, what we usually try to emphasize is each individual is different, so you study yourself and try and find out exactly what brings up an attack. Most of my patients that have enlightened and familiar with their illnesses know the minute you ask them what was different, they either tell you, maybe I came across someone using a perfume, or they gave me flowers, or I even ate something different that I'm allergic to.
So food could actually
give
another trigger.
Asthma is just basically an allergy, as I've explained earlier. So that we have what we call trigger. Something causes an attack. Even stress can bring up an attack in some people.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Stress?
Yes.
Okay.
Exercise too.
Exercise as well.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
So now you have, where do we stand? You go ask us to encourage ourselves by exercising. Now,
Yes, it can actually, yes. It can,
okay, so what role are we playing differently at the different levels of advocacy, whether from governments, health workers, but for the public to actually know this is what they can do differently? What kind of role should we be pushing now?
Yes, this is a very good start, really, because the more we provide information for the public, you know, they will be able to do and actions that emanate from that informed position. Which is a very good one. And then we also need to encourage government to also promote, to put in laws that that makes the environment, very friendly to health. Yeah, thank God. Yes, we have.
So where we can get
no tobacco.
Green environment. How do we help manage some of this illness?
Yes, and the way to manage it is first, if you can prevent it. That's a very good management.
Okay.
If you can prevent it, that is by preventing yourself from getting exposed to these things that can lead to these respiratory diseases, or can, like my colleague here mentioned, those triggers. And then organizing our indoors very well. Even the walls, you can see that some people live where you have damp walls, see molds all over the place. They can, lead to respiratory disease. And of course, try not to use this biomass.
What's that?
That's firewood and all those to cook. I know that maybe, yes, in Abuja, but even now you'll be surprised how many people are still using firewood in FCT.
Earlier you talk about people using incense and also should they stop using that, or how do they do that? At least if you have
an asthmatic in a house, then my advice is that you should stop using the incense, because it's going to trigger up an attack. Most likely trigger up an attack. So now prevention, apart from the prevention, is the issue of vaccine. You can actually get vaccinated against some of these respiratory diseases, like you can take pneumonia vaccines, influenza vaccines, and thank God, particularly for the under 5s, the government has made these vaccines available.
Are they free?
And it's free. It's under the national program.
Last word from you. We must go. We must go now.
Well, another preventive arm, I believe, is seeking medical care. Studying up, I'll be reading up about whatever disease condition you might have, because these days the internet, almost everybody has an internet on their phone, so an information changes daily. So it's advisable everyone goes up and reads more about what they can do to prevent such illnesses. And of course, if you're in a line of work that you've noticed that you're allergic to something or you're ill, I think, well, our laws, government laws, I'm not quite sure if they are strong or being enforced as per compensation wise, but everyone, if you can like find an alternate means of income if you're self-employed.
Perhaps you have to use a mask.
Perhaps use a mask, yes. That could be.
Doctor said,
but
that's another day. Thank you very much, consultant physician and pulmonologist with the National Hospital, Dr. Kingsley Osage. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Also like to appreciate Ijoba Linda Wakakwa, Senior Registrar, Respiratory Medicine, National Hospital as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Also appreciate you for your time. Monday, 7:30 in the evening is another time to watch out for another edition of Nigeria Today. But you can actually watch this online at youtube.com/NTA News 24 My name is Blessing Abu. Enjoy yourself for the weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you very much.